Okay, so I've got a lot of people saying thank you in the chat room. So we're moving to the next session. I mean, when we're talking at the introduction, we're talking about the planning in terms of how things are now. And one of the leading challenges that organizations have to face now is the anxiety that comes with information. So there's quite a lot of information out there, and quite a lot of it is bad news. So if you're going through social media and you're going through any of the platforms, there's a tendency to think that everything around the world is going bad. And with all of these digital platforms, you find that the access to this bad news or the access to this information is a lot higher than it ever was, which we're now seeing as a result of this, we're seeing increase in instances of having to deal with mental health related issues within the workplace. So the next session, we'll be looking at how to embed mental health into your people strategy as an organization. The speaker for the next session, so just 1 second. The speaker for the next session is a chartered fellow of the Institute of Personnel and Development, FCIPD, and holds a Master's of Art degree in Human Resource Management from the University of Westminster in London, and a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from the University of Ghana. He has significant experience in human resource management and development, working in different capacities within the HR function in a number of organizations, including Sainsbury's in the UK, Metropolitan and Allied Bank, Ghana, Mail Consulting Limited, Ghana, Scancom Limited, that's MTN Ghana, and Air Liquide Ghana. He has served on the executive committee of the Commonwealth Telecoms Organization and is currently a management committee member of the CTO program for development and training. He's a member of the Novaturian Foundation, a non-profit organization or a not-for-profit organization with focus on empowering individuals and professionals to be their best. He's currently the HR manager at Vodafone Ghana. So please join me as I welcome for the next session, Mr. Peter Crabbe. He's here with us. So good morning, Peter. I think it's still morning in Ghana, right? Yes, it's morning.
Yes, it's morning. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Nice to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so over to you, sir.
Okay, so I am sharing my screen.
We can see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go to presentation mode. Okay. So thank you very much once again. I've enjoyed the earlier presentations. And as I listen to them, I also pick up issues that could also be affecting us mentally, if I may put it that way. From all the presentations that have been done, we keep focusing on the benefits of technology, of learning, of change, without most of the time thinking about the impact on the people within the organization. So forward-looking organizations are beginning to look at the mental health side of the organization because of its cost implication that most of the time is on our blind side. So thank you for making this topic part of the conference. Okay, so let's go into it. Mental health is part of a bigger framework of a total well-being, you know. So within that, we have digital balance, physical, purpose and growth, connectivity, financial, and emotional, and it's interconnected because these things can have effects on your mental being as well. So it's not just mental, but there's a bigger framework of well-being in general. Okay. So what is mental health? It is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential and can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to the community. And this is the World Health Organization. And community comes in different forms. Your church community or your religious organization or body is a community. The workplace is a community. Your family, whether nuclear or extended, is a community, and your society is a community as well. And your ability to contribute productively to these communities is dependent on your mental health. So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So like we said, that's what will make you contribute productively. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. So just like physical health, everyone has a mental health that we have to look after. And most of the time we assume that it's only the people who are on the streets or in the institutions who are having problems. If I'm not mistaken, a latest research publication in Ghana indicated that about 80% of the population have one form of mental health or the other at a given time. So it's also depending on the time. As sometimes you may sometimes not have challenges depending on where you find yourself or the challenges that you confront. So that is why the next one says, think of mental health as a continuum ranging from good to poor health. At different points in life, we are at different points of the spectrum. So it's a continuum. It's not just a state that is either or. You can slide from one to the other and back, depending on where you find yourself and the challenges you are confronted. So just to show the impact, a FCIPD 2016 employee outlook focus on mental health at work survey found 54% of people reporting poor mental health. Said that this was due to combination of work and non-work issues. 37% said their poor mental health was just down to personal issues outside of work, while 7% said their poor mental health was the result of work. So how we design work can affect mental health and indirectly affect productivity. Along the line, we'll see the numbers in terms of productivity and cost to the organization. And how people feel outside work, the challenges that confront people outside work also affect their mental health, which in turn also affects productivity. So as organization, supporting employees have well-balanced mental health. It's not just for the employee well-being, but it's also for that of the organization. Okay, so that is why we have to look at it. So people with good mental health tend to feel in control of their emotions, have positive interaction with others, and feel they can perform well at work. And the reverse is the reverse. So poor mental health will mean that people will not be in control and will not feel that they can support at work. Poor mental health and stress are leading cause of long-term sickness absence. So people may stay away from work and it will affect productivity because of mental health. And stress, doctors will say, can mimic any disease. So you may be having back problem, you may be having sicknesses, you may be having all sorts of things, not because you are actually physically sick, by your stress and mental health manifesting in forms and presence at work. So that is where the next one is mental health manifests in mood disorders, depression, bipolar disorders, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, and psychotic disorders and the rest. So it manifests in different forms. Businesses and HR must be proactive in promoting and sustaining good mental health for ourselves, colleagues, and people we manage. Because working with people who are going through mental health indirectly affects the others as well. And that can also cause them to also develop mental health problem. You know, when you have to come to work and always fighting with people, always having conflict, with people not coming to work, letting you become burdened with the work that they will be doing if they're at work, can also indirectly cause you to also develop mental health issues. So helping people solve their mental health challenges also help those who don't have it not to have it. Okay. So this is a cost. This is another research. Unfortunately, it's not from Africa, but it's just to let you know that it has a cost. So cost of poor mental health are a key factor driving. Okay, this is a research that was done. And it says that the review commissioned new analysis from Deloitte on the cost of employee mental health illness, which amount to a cost per employee of between 1,205 and 1,560 per year. So between 33 billion and 42 billion a year. And this is from Deloitte 2017. And this is made up of absenteeism cost, presenteeism cost. So people can come to work, but you will not get productivity out of them because their state of mind is not balanced enough to support them produce or have a productive work. And then turnover, people will resign if they feel that they are not well, if I may put it that way. So this is the cost of not taking mental health issues seriously at their workplace. Now, just like we said, it's a continuum. So you can move from a healthy state to ill states and then slide back, and they all manifest differently. But we have to try as much as possible to maintain everybody at a healthy state. Okay. So here too, we have some common symptoms, so it manifests physically, psychologically, and behavioral. So some of the physical symptoms is fatigue, sweating, indigestion, joint and back pain, changes in sleep patterns, nervous, trembling, speech, chest or throat pains, and others. So this may not be exhaustive, and it manifests in different people differently, but these are just some of the physical symptoms. Psychological, we've seen some of them already. Indecision, mood change, lapses in memory, suicidal thoughts. And it's said that men don't even know when they are having mental health issues, and therefore are likely not to seek help. However, 3 out of 4 suicides are men. And, we can say that a lot of them may be due to mental health issues. Anyway, then we come to behavioral: increase in smoking or drinking, withdrawal, irritability, anger or aggression, overexcitement, lateness and leaving early or extended lunches, working for long hours, and so on. So these are some of the symptoms. But like I said, it's not all, and people manifest differently. Okay. So why does it matter? Like we said, employee engagement. If you have people with mental health issues, like I said from the beginning, you will not have their full attention, and therefore you will not be able to engage them to follow the business agenda and support, drive it. And disengage employees, the cost of that. Then we have absenteeism, because it's, manifests in sicknesses. And, people may just get up and not feel like coming to work. They may not have a reason. They will call in sick, or they will just, ignore, and that's it. Then we have presenteeism. People come to work, but they are not present. So there's a cost to that as well. Turnover, people likely to resign, when they feel unsafe, and then conflicts at work. People are always fighting and have issues, and this all have cost to the organization. So another research from CIPD, says that mental health, can have effects on employees, and these are some of the percentages. So taking longer to do tasks, 64%, having difficulty making decisions, 54%, finding it more difficult juggling a number of tasks, 48%, being less patient with customers. And if we say customer is the king, and you have 48% of employees struggling to accommodate the customer, you can see the cost implication to the organization. So sometimes you run a lot of customer service training, you are not seeing the effect. Maybe it's time for you to take a step back and look at the environment and see whether it is having impact on mental health of organization, of the employees within organization. Putting off challenging work, being more likely to get into conflict with others, and then finding it difficult to concentrate. And if you cannot concentrate, it's amount to presenteeism, being present but not adding anything to the organization. Okay, so these are the areas that you can look at in assisting. Sorry. Hello. Are you saying something? I should continue. Okay. So job stress, as HR or as an organization, we need to look at job stress. We need to look at relationship difficulties, physical harassment within the organization, separations and losses, people going through separation and losses within the organization. How well is work-life balance? Elderly and childcare, parenting challenges, are people going through this? Sexual harassment, financial and legal assistance, domestic violence, and substance abuse. So some of these things may be things that are happening in people's life privately, but these are things that can affect their mental health and affect productivity. So what kind of assistance can you put in place to support employees deal with these things in their personal life so they can have productive life at their workplace? So ownership is very important. We need to accept the fact that this is something that we need to look at as an organization, and it has to be driven from the top. It's not something that is said and given to somebody, a lower level person sitting somewhere, and then nobody pays attention to. It has to be owned and driven from the top because of the cost implication to the organization and to make it work. You also need to do mental health surveys to find out how people are feeling, within the organization. Open communication, and providing support to individuals and teams to perform optimally. Looking at HR processes and practices through a well-being lens. So we need to take all our policies and review them and see how they may be impacting employees or support employees, through the well-being lens. And then let's not make mental health a negative, what should I say? Let it not have a negative tone to it, if I may use that word. Let it be discussed openly. Let people know that it is, it should not have any stigma. It should not be looked at negatively because we all go through it. Adjustment of change of work. What can you do to support people, handle mental health? Are you, if you take people who have childcare support, and just using an example, I went jogging one day at dawn around 5 a.m. and I saw a father sitting in a car with a daughter waiting for school gates to open. So depending on where you live, you have to drive in very early. And, could work be designed in such a way that you don't have to leave home that early and come and, sit at the car park If people are supposed, there was another case where somebody closes from work, goes to sleep at hospital because a child has been admitted and come to work the next day, and doing that for like half a year because of terminal illness of a child. What can you do to support that person? I mean, can you give them all the tools? Probably get them a private facility where they can even work from the hospital whilst paying attention to the child as well. Because sitting at the workplace and not seeing the child who you know is terminally ill can also contribute to presenteeism. So there are so many things that are happening in people's lives that as an organization, we have to take interest in and see how we can adjust the workplace to support them, handle them so we can get the best out of them. And then employee assistance program, to support employees. Okay. So these are some of the things that we can do, counseling. I've talked about some of them already, counseling and psychological assistance, domestic violence assistance. What do you have in place? Now that we are all talking about working from home and supporting people to work from home, the fact still remains that some people, the office place is their sanctuary, especially those who go through domestic violence or abuse. What are we doing to support them, to work from home? Mental health, focus groups, talks and webinars at the workplace on, health, emotional health or mental health. Employee and line manager training, and we'll see that line managers, we are talking about what the organization needs to do, but it's the line managers that come together most of the time to make what organizations do to support their employees. So what kind of empowerment and training are we giving to line managers to understand these things so they do the things that they have to do to support their employees? And then appointing mental health first aiders or ambassadors who become first point of reference. So it's not just about first aid, where we train people, to do CPRs and stuff, but also training people to support when it comes to mental health. Then we can talk about some of the physical health things that can also support mental health, like gym membership for employees, letting them have medical insurance and cover, periodic checkup as well. Financial education. I listened to a Netflix documentary that says that coming from poor backgrounds sometimes make it difficult to identify people who are having mental health. Because generally, poor people, either they've developed the resilience to handle mental health, or they are going through it every time because of the challenges that they are going through, poor background. So yes, financial education programs, to let people become financially empowered. If you cannot pay your rent, you are being kicked out of your accommodation. Of course, you come to work and you don't be able to focus, thinking about your family. If you don't have money, you have to, stay in a very poor neighborhood where, you go home and you cannot sleep and you come back into the office in the morning without enough rest. You can also have issues on your mental health. Living far away from the office because that's where you can afford, and going through traffic, stress, and coming to work can also have mental challenges. Working from home where you don't have the resources to, buy the necessary equipment, have a desk, have a laptop stand, be ergonomically safe, can also have its issues on your mental health. So, there are so many things. That's why I said from the beginning, we've talked about a lot of things, but in doing that, we also have to take the employee well-being into consideration, because it can have, even adapting to the pace of change happening in the workplace and in the environment can also cause mental health issues for people as well. So career advice and personal development is equally important, and then employee engagement activities. Then some policies that you can look at internally to help embed mental health into your organization is your well-being, health and well-being strategy of employee assistance program, remote working policy, domestic violence and abuse policy, as well as policy. By having policies. And we even said earlier on that you have to look at all your policies from mental health angle. So this is the way that you can embed it in your organization when they are captured and reflected, and the organization is thinking about the employee, or making the employee feel that the organization is thinking about me through all the policies, all the initiatives, that the organization have in place. And finally, the power of the line manager, as I said earlier on. If you look at the umbrella, the things that is raining down, ridiculous requests, unclear priorities, unnecessary meetings, last minute chaos, massive uncertainty. Now people are working from home. Meetings are being scheduled irrespective. At least the workplace, sometimes availability of meeting rooms, reduces the number of meetings that you have because you are looking for meeting room to schedule. So you are tempted into having hurdles and discussing things and moving on. With remote working, calendars are being blocked. People are sitting in meetings throughout the day. Nobody cares about people's calendar. Sometimes you have triple meetings at the same time. Your break times are being blocked and stuff. What conscious measures are being put in place by line managers to ensure that this doesn't happen? So some of the things that the line managers can do is define roles, because yes, we live in an uncertain environment, but help the employee by creating some level of certainty in the working environment, clear expectations, supporting and work-life balance, stable, achievable goals. So probably the future is uncertain, yes. Instead of annual goals, can you do quarterly goals? Can you do monthly goals? So that at every given time, we all know what we are supposed to do. So line managers have a lot of power. Research has shown that line managers' approach is the second main cause of work-related stress. So let managers understand their influence and impact, train them to manage it, and also know the cost implications and the benefits, so they support the organization. So just a cycle: understand and identify organizational need, develop a workplace mental health and well-being strategy, gain support. We said that support from leadership is very important, monitor and improve, and then understand and identify, just keep the cycle going. It's not something that you do and stop. It's something that you keep running and keep improving on, because the challenges keep changing. And yes, exposures also change, so must we change. Before COVID, digital exposure may not be classified as one of the key challenges, but now today it is. So what are the other things that are coming up every day? So thank you very much. These are the impacts of mental health and how we can embed it in our organization.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Peter. Thank you so much. I think it's been an insightful discussion, particularly I like where, the way you've talked about trying to understand how we can embed all of these practices into the realities of the organization. And particularly, and that's one of the beauties of the HR Tech Africa conference, because we can look at it from an African perspective. So the example you talked about, somebody who is having to drop off their child and sit with them in the car very early in the morning on their way to work, are things that, many people in the room can, relate to. So I've got quite a few questions in the chat, in the question and answer box. If you've got questions, you can put them in the question and answer box. So it says that if psychometric assessment is part of my company's recruitment process and a potential candidate's test comes out negative, especially in the area of emotional stability, would you consider it as a bias if we choose not to hire?
Yes, if we also understand that mental health is not a permanent state, but it's a continuum. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we are employing the best employees. So normally we will say that create the right environment to make sure that the best in the employee comes out. Mm-hmm. Are you sure that that particular time that the employee completed the form, he or the potential employee completed the form, is going through some form of resulted in that result? So what are you doing about it to go beyond that? And let's also not forget that these psychometric tools can also be very biased, depending on who designed it, the context in which it was designed, and the environment for which it was designed. Sometimes we take tools that may not have necessarily been designed for us and implemented it. There's a nice documentary on Netflix, I've forgotten the title, that talk about Amazon. Is it not Amazon? Is it Amazon? Yes, Amazon face recognition AI that was designed, that was being used only to realize that the AI discriminates. Let me put it that way. You know, it doesn't recognize Black people. It's, you know, is biased against them. So sometimes you have to take these things into consideration, that these tools are not necessarily perfect. They may have challenges with them. And then you also have to take into consideration the timing of the thing. Will you allow the person to do it again? Will you invite the person to talk to the person to find out what really is worrying the person? The person has done so well in everything apart from this. Are you going to use this as a basis to turn down, or you go behind it to find out what the issues are?
Well, thank you so much. And as we're speaking, one thought that came to my mind was we've got to be careful so that the psychometric assessment tool does not become a new input into the courses of mental health challenges for people. Okay, so I've got a second question here, which is it's quite a mouthful, so I'm going to try and go through it. It says, as an HR manager, considering the cost of presenteeism versus the cost of absenteeism, with the first being more costly, that is, with presenteeism being more costly than absenteeism, how can you effectively balance time given off when needed with people abusing that access? I'm guessing you're saying when people are abusing the access for the time given off. What kind of assessment needs to be put in place to ensure that the time off is requested when it is actually needed and not taken for granted in respect of mental health leave? Also, how can you support high-performing employees in the area of balancing productivity and mental health?
It's really a long one. Okay, so the words that jump out to me from the question is when it is needed. But who determines when it is needed? It is the person going through the stress and challenges who determines when he or she needs the time off. So are we listening to our employees as well? And sometimes we start the year and we don't encourage employees to take time off in bits, you know, and I don't know whether it's also employees' mentality that I have to accumulate all my days and go for like 1 month, you know, in a stretch. And then when business challenges come in, then that becomes a problem. So do we encourage employees to take time off, you know, when the business slows down so that they can go and recuperate and come back to meet business challenges? You know, are we allowing people to push, or are managers also failing insecure by allowing people to take time off, feeling that work cannot be done or they cannot meet up. So probably what we also need to do is to make sure that the team is well balanced, that everybody can, pitch in when one person is out, so we can allow people to take time off. So this is what I can say about that. Let people get time off throughout the year. And what we also realize is that working from home, people are struggling to take time off, because now managers, companies have equipped employees. We've given you data, we've given you laptop, we've given you food. And what it means is that you have to be available on demand. So people are being called in, all sorts of times, being sent emails and stuff, and being demanded to produce. So how can we also reduce this so people can have time for themselves as well? So this is a bit that I can say.
Okay, so it's interesting that you ended on that note, because the next question will continue that conversation that you stopped. So it says that remote work has taken its toll on employees mentally. How do you advise that organizations protect their remote workforce?
Okay, so it comes back again to line managers, training line managers to understand that because people are working from home, it doesn't mean that they have lost their private life, if I may put it that way. So can we have time that we set up meetings? Is it from 9 to 4 p.m. every day, beyond which we should not have meetings scheduled? As well, take it out. Should we have break times as well, that there should not be any meetings on the timetable as well? Should we support employees? And so I conclude that it's not everybody that can do remote working. Once again, coming to somebody who has just graduated from school, staying with their parents in a chamber and a hall, if I'm a one-bedroom, apartment. If the mother is working from home, the son is working from home. Where are they sitting? In there, to make sure that it's well balanced. Is somebody sitting on bed? Is somebody, sitting on a chair? What is the cost to their well-being, in that state? So what kind of support are we giving to these people as well, to make sure that they are able to work comfortably, taking into consideration privacy, so you cannot just go and sit in the internet cafe and say you are working when you are dealing with confidential information and stuff. So all these things, also have impacts on the employee. So what conscious efforts are you putting in taking into consideration all these challenges? Are you doing surveys to find out from your employees what the issues are? We are privileged in Ghana to have more reliable power. But if you go to Nigeria, where NEPA and generator and fuel prices are going up, how is it affecting people working from home? And what is the state? I can imagine solar, getting off in the middle of the presentation. How it's going to run around the house trying to look for generator to power it and get back. So people in meetings, having such challenges, how is it going to affect them, mentally? Have I disappointed my manager? Have I disappointed my organization? Will it go against me during my PD cycle and, performance management cycle and all that? And, managers, are we thinking of these things? If you can go through, your employees can go through and even go through in worse than you do, because you may have been able to, you may have your study in your house, you have your desk, you are buying internet and doing all those things. So these are some of the things that we have to train managers to think about be more emotionally intelligent in handling their employees to support them go through.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I think that's really practical in the way you shared it. So it's almost like you're trying to understand what your digital work culture is and reducing the stress on people within those environments. Okay, so I've got another question here that says, how best can I manage the mental health of my employees in a startup without it being financially overbearing on my organization?
Okay, I think I'll say that it's easier in smaller organizations than bigger organizations, because in a smaller organization, you tend to know everybody, and in the bigger organization, it comes back to the line manager, and why I emphasize on the line manager. The line manager is in a smaller team where you know virtually everybody within your organization. Try to understand your employees' pain, for instance, where they stay, how far from the office, do they have parental care? Do they have child care? How is it affecting them? What is schooling for their children like? How long does it take them to come to work? What is the traffic situation like? How fast are they adopting to the digital transformation? Probably they are willing, but however, they don't know where to turn, where to go, what are the references that they have to use and stuff. So understanding all this about your employee will help you know how to guide and direct them. Some people may be reserved, but have you won their trust? It's something that you also have to think about so they can share with you, because through sharing that you can support them. Are you also confidential? Are you keeping their information, things that they share with you in confidence and not broadcasting it, so they know that when they come to you, they know that, yes, whatever they discuss with you, will stay with you and not be heard elsewhere. So these are some of the things that you can do. You can also, if you have the means, you can have a psychologist on retainer or on service, who can support your employees. But advising them, sometimes it's just a matter of advising people where they can go, not necessarily giving them money, but where they can go to get support. Sometimes they also don't know. So that's another thing that we can do.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question we'll be taking on this session is, this is an interesting one. So someone says, are you an advocate for the 4-day work week, which gained popularity during the pandemic? It says, how do we also motivate for this as an HR community? So I think we'll answer the first part. So the response is yes, then we'll move to the second part of it.
Well, research is saying that 4 days is increasing productivity. So every organization who wants to drive productivity will also want to experiment it. However, let's not also forget that some people also take refuge in their work. It's through their work that they also get purpose. They feel they are contributing. For some people, work is not work. It's like hobby, and they want to do it. They get benefit out of it. So I think it should be balanced. Let's not gain too much. Let's not push people too much, to the point where they begin to lose it mentally. At the same time, let's not also take too much away from people, because that can also affect people as well. So I guess it's your environment and what best works for you.
Thank you so much for this session. It's been a really interesting session, and I can see from the chat room that people have found it to be very interesting and insightful as well. So thank you so much, Peter, for joining us today to talk about embedding mental health into our work practices or our HR practices or our people strategy within the organization. So thank you. And we look forward to having you on future sessions if you're available. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So one of the interesting things that Peter mentioned as he was talking about the 4-day work week, was a side to the conversation that I never thought of before, which is there are people who find meaning from their work. So the fact that they go to the office every day is a key part of their lives. So taking away some of that may affect their mental health, affect them in other ways. But as